Everyone, welcome to Plants and Politics. You may or may not know, but on June 1st, President Donald Trump had his goons attack peaceful Black Lives Matter protesters and members of the press with pepper bullets, tear gas, stun grenades, you name it. They also physically assaulted people who were literally doing nothing wrong, including an Australian journalist and her crew. They were pushed, shoved, beaten with shields and batons. It was so bad that it made the news itself because it was so egregious and violent. I believe it was Australian. They were either Australian or New Zealand, but it was just horrific. So why did he do this? Well, why did he order a military assault essentially on American citizens? All for a photo op. He attacked and assaulted people so he could walk over to ultimately hold a Bible upside down for a photo op in front of St. John's Episcopal Church. This was simply 100% to pander to white evangelical supporters, you know, the ones who are still hanging on and gullible enough to somehow still believe that this living, breathing embodiment of Satan is somehow a Christian. It just blows my mind. But now, sworn testimony from a DC National Guard member named Major Adam DeMarco has been given to the press. And the truth about what happened that day and in the days that led up to that horrific scene are even worse than what we knew at the time. So Major DeMarco is the most recent whistleblower to step forward and speak out because he sees the ever-growing totalitarian threat in the White House, and he had a front row seat to this. He was the highest-ranking DC National Guard officer on the ground that day. And in addition to that, he acted as the liaison between the National Guard and the U.S. Park Police. So he was literally involved in executing Trump's orders that day. And here's what DeMarco had to say and why he's coming forward to end this complete insanity. DeMarco told lawmakers under oath that defense officials not only authorized the transfer of approximately 7,000 rounds of ammunition and a, quote, stash of M4 carbine assault rifles to DC, but they were also actively seeking to obtain a weapon that's called an active denial system, ADS for short. So what is this ADS system? It's also referred to as a heat ray, and what it does is it makes people feel like their skin is on fire. And they were planning to use this on American citizens. Now, this ADS weapon, just to give you an idea of how horrendous this is, this ADS weapon is something that's considered even too cruel to be used in war. The military literally refused to use it on our enemies in Iraq and Afghanistan. But Trump's administration wanted to use it on members of the public for simply exercising their First Amendment right to peacefully assemble and protest. Let that sink in. We are not going to use it in a war against people who are trying to murder our military members. It's too cruel for that. But people out protesting because they want Black people to not be killed by police for no reason in our country, no, let's use it on them. They deserve it. Seriously? This is not surprising, though, because Trump suggested using this same weapon on immigrants trying to come across the southern border in 2018. He wanted to use this weapon that's too cruel to use against people in war, against people who are just trying to come to America because they are seeking a better life or because they're fleeing violence and hunger and economic tragedy in their own countries. So it was something that even Cruella de Vil herself, Kirsten Nielsen, refused to do. The Trump administration, of course, they deny this, right? They are claiming that this is not true, that, we used these tactics against the protesters because they were violent. They claim that protesters were setting fires and throwing things at police, but we all saw it with our own eyes. They can't gaslight us when we saw what was going on. People were literally just standing around, they were chanting, they were carrying signs, and then they were attacked. But on top of what we saw in multiple videos and witnessed with our own eyes, Major DeMarco has now confirmed that the Trump administration lied about what prompted the attacks. So DeMarco, who, by the way, has served in combat zones, he's very well aware of what it's like to be under attack. He told legislators that at no time during the protest did he feel threatened in any way. He said, quote, that he did not assess them to be violent. He also said, quote, from my observation, these demonstrators, our fellow American citizens, were engaged in the peaceful expression of their First Amendment rights. Yet they were subjected to an unprovoked escalation and excessive use of force. This is a guy who is working for the administration. He works for Trump. He is putting everything on the line. He's putting his career. We all know what has happened to other people, other whistleblowers who have come forward and told the truth about Trump's depraved behavior. He knows what's coming. He's going to get death threats. He's going to be run out of the administration. His career is over, basically. People are going to turn against him. They're going to call him every name in the book. But you know what? Some people have character. Some people have ethics and morals. And so, I don't know what this man's political leanings are, but for this reason, for stepping up and being honest and trying to do what's best for the country, I admire him. I give him all the credit in the world. So he is not only contradicting what the administration has said, his testimony contradicts the other testimony of the U.S. Park Police Chief, Gregory Monahan. So Monahan also testified in front of Congress, and he claimed that officials had used a long-range acoustic device to warn protesters and the media to disperse in advance of shooting and attacking them. So this long-range acoustic device is something, it's like a PA system so that people can hear you above a lot of noise and at far range. DeMarco told congressional lawmakers that that was literally impossible because they didn't have a long-range acoustic device on the scene that day. Instead, he said that police officers relied on a handheld megaphone to issue the dispersal orders, and that the crowd was chanting at the time and they didn't appear to hear the warning before they were attacked. Major DeMarco also said that he was standing about 30 yards away from the officer who made the announcement that day, and that he could barely understand what the guy said. So clearly, if he couldn't hear it, and he knew what the guy was saying, what he was supposed to be saying, and he was only 30 yards away, how is a crowd of protesters that are even further away, that are chanting and talking amongst themselves, going to hear it? And it was clear, if you watch any of the videos, you can see they were completely shocked. It's not like they looked up and they were listening to what the guy was saying and then just went back to what they were doing and ignored it. They had no clue. It's so obvious if you watch any of the video from that day. And it also appears that the Park Police Chief Monahan also lied when he told lawmakers that the police had followed standard protocol. So standard protocol is that they must issue multiple warnings first before using any kind of tear gas or violence to get a crowd to disperse. He claims that they issued 3 warnings before they took action and used force against the protesters. But DeMarco says, no, not only did they not use a device that would have allowed the crowd to hear them, and that they only used the megaphone, but that they only issued one warning. Now, what's even more terrifying than all of this, and what's becoming clear, is that Trump is not the only sociopath in power right now, and that DeMarco is a very rare ethical human being in the Trump administration, because DeMarco provided a copy of an email in which he was CC'd, and it was sent to him and others by the lead military police officer in the National Capital Region. So in it, the military police officer wrote that the active denial system weapon, remember that's this heat ray that's even too vile to be used in war against our enemies, quote, can provide our troops a capacity they currently do not have, the ability to reach out and engage potential adversaries at distances well beyond small arms range and in a safe, effective, and non-lethal manner. So remember, he's talking about American citizens. He's talking about peaceful protesters and journalists who are literally exercising their constitutional rights. He's referring to them as adversaries. And the funny thing is, I mean, not funny ha-ha, but a funny ironic. I remember when this all went down, and I remember seeing a tweet by one of his administration members, one of Trump's administration members. He posted a picture of Trump walking out of the White House. He was surrounded by military members. And he was saying something about how tough Trump was, how I've never seen a president who walked out in the midst of uprising like this and was so unafraid. Really? I mean, even then I laughed at it because I knew about all of the violence against the protesters. Yeah, he's so tough. Bunker Boy is so tough. The guy who was hiding out in his bunker and then only came out when he had weapons and cops there to shoot at and violently attack unarmed citizens. He's so tough. I know people call him, I forget who it is, John Legend's wife. Her name escapes me at the moment, but I know she calls Trump a pussy ass bitch. I think that's an insult to pussy. I think that's an insult to female body parts, because our body parts are pretty damn strong, right? We push a watermelon out of it. I mean, it takes a beating and keeps on ticking. So yeah, personally, he's a walking testicle. He really is. He's so sensitive. Oh, you barely touch him. I mean, look at how he reacts when anybody says anything negative about him. Oh my God. There's never been a more sensitive, delicate little flower in the White House. It is pathetic how weak he is. What a complete walking testicle he is. As always, guys, this is terrifying. So yeah, it's not going to get better. If he's allowed 4 more years, there will be no guardrails. He will not have to worry about re-election and how he's being perceived. The chains will, what few and weak chains there are on him at the moment will be completely gone. If he is allowed another 4 years, it's game over. It's absolutely game over. As always, like, share, subscribe, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care. Thanks for listening to Plants and Politics. The only way we can take our country and power back is to spread the truth and build an army. So remember to like, follow, subscribe, and share on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks again.